How's everyone doing today? This is a quick UU match with a guy by the name of Exclamation that I met on the Smogon Wi-Fi Battle Finder. Basically, this is a really close match, and I think it's pretty cool, which is why I decided to post it. So let's go ahead and jump right into this really fast. So, I ended up thinking that he would lead with his Roserade to counter a, what would otherwise be an obvious Swampert lead on my part, so I went ahead and led with my Chandelure, to counter that, and plus I figured if he decided to go for Regiskill, then I also had him kind of fucked there, so yeah, and then I predicted that he would change into either his Victini or his Slowbro, so I went for a Shadow Ball, which was also just kind of a safe bet to go for, and that ended up taking out his Slowbro really early on in the match. That was awesome to get him out of the way, but he changes out into his Nidoking, and I really didn't have anything to do to him because the Shadow Ball would only do so much, and I was Choice Scarfed, so I couldn't even go for like Energy Ball or something, but I had changed out into my Zapdos, obviously predicting a ground move, but he obviously predicted that because he went for the Ice Beam. I was going to go for a Roost that would not only get me health, but make it to where Ice Beam wouldn't be super effective, but he ended up outspeeding me, so that kind of sucked, and I lost my Zapdos pretty early. So, he ends up switching out into his Victini to take a Will-O-Wisp, but, you know, ends up not hitting it and all of that stuff, while I had my, my Sableye out, just kind of doing this as scouting. He gets a crit on the U-turn, which kind of sucks, you know, because it almost killed me because, like I've said, the cool thing about Sableye is that he has no weaknesses, but he's frail as shit, so like anything that he isn't completely immune to does quite a bit of damage to him. But anyway, I don't want to take what he's going to throw at me. I was kind of predicting a Shadow Ball, so I switched out into Ambipom, but he actually just goes for the Earth Power, which kind of, you know, lays a little bit of a smackdown on Ambipom, and so he ends up getting his Nidoking out of there, and he switches out into his Hitmontop, which is a really good idea because, you know, now my Fake Out isn't going to do shit with that Intimidate going on me, so, you know, this guy, he really knew how to cripple my Ambipom, you know, not only with that Earth Power, which I'm not sure he even predicted that, but the Earth Power, of course, got him pretty weak to where I had to be a little bit more cautious with him, and then the Intimidate goes ahead and messes with him a whole lot to where he is kind of useless. So, anyway, I switch out into my Milotic because I figured I could take anything that some of his physical attackers were going to be hitting at me. I go for the Ice Beam, kind of thinking he might switch out into his Roserade, but I should have just gone for the Scald or something like that, just being safe, but yeah, so I figured he was going to go for some status ailing move, so I switched out into my Ambipom, you know, thinking, alright, this guy is already kind of useless because now he's switching out into his Hitmontop a lot to, you know, to counter my Ambipom, and I really didn't figure that my Ambipom was going to be a huge usage of this match, so I just go for a low kick, kind of thinking on the off chance that he might stay in with his Registeel, but he actually just switched out into Hitmontop. Didn't matter, I just kept going for it anyway, you know, and he just ends up, of course, getting rid of my Ambipom, and I just kind of sacked him at that point. And then I go ahead and change back out into my Chandelure. I didn't want to overpredict and go for the, or I guess underpredict might be the better term, but I didn't want to go for a Psychic, which is a good thing that I didn't because he ended up just changing out into his Victini. This was kind of a thing that I had to really think about, you know, going for a Shadow Ball as opposed to a Psychic to go on his Hitmontop. But anyway, so now it became versus my Swampert and his Nidoking. Figured I would go ahead and set up rocks late game a little bit more past the half of the game, but yeah, so I just had rock set up, and I'm choice banded, so I had to get out of there because there was really nothing else I could do. Switched out into my Sableye, somewhat, you know, just kind of seeing what I could do. Go ahead and go for a recover really quick, knowing that I could probably take one Earth Power, which I did. And, you know, I kind of figured, alright, there's really no point in just me recovering over and over because I can only take one Earth Power even at full health. So I just decided to go ahead and get a Will-O-Wisp on him to go ahead and get that Nidoking out of the way, even though I really could have dealt with him fairly easily with my Swampert and all that stuff. So I probably should have saved my Sableye, you know, for later on, but I just went for the Ice Punch because, like I said, I'm banded, so I figured, you know, instead of going for a Waterfall, then maybe if he, for whatever reason, I guess I figured that I would maybe in some world be able to outspeed his Roserade, but I couldn't, of course. I don't know why I even went for Ice Punch, but it didn't matter. But anyway, so this time I did go for Psychic now that the Victini was out of the way. You know, there was really no fears that I had for going against a Psychic or using a Psychic, on the Hitmontop. So this time it is back to my Milotic and his his Registeel. He just kind of, I think he went for Earthquake. I kind of missed it. It's going kind of fast right now. But he switches back out into his Roserade, as I just went for a Dragon Tail because I kind of figured I'm not really doing this for Stealth Rock damage, but I was kind of thinking, all right, you know, all that's left is his Registeel and his Roserade. So I didn't really want to take an EQ, of course, from the Registeel because that would knock out my my Chandelure most likely. So I get him frozen, and I'm like, all right, yes, now I have this free change out into Chandelure, and I've got this match in the bag, right? So I switch out into Chandelure, and he gets first turn unfreezing and does that, and I'm like, no, there is no way, because I don't think that one Flamethrower is going to be able to take out that Registeel from full health. So I switch back out into my Milotic to be safe, and I just kind of go for a Scald, and I'm like, okay, if I can get this guy's health down a little bit, and maybe even get a status ailment on him, then I could have this a little easier, and be able to Flamethrower him and have him out, because I choose Flamethrower because, you know, I prefer accuracy over power most of the time. So I just go for a Scald. Of course, doesn't do shit on his Roserade right now, and I know it's going to outspeed me because my Milotic is slow as hell, but for whatever reason, I guess I stayed in, thinking that he might double switch into his Registeel, and then I lost my my Milotic, and now I have to switch into my Chandelure, and of course I'm able to outspeed him since I'm Choice Scarfed, and I get the Flamethrower, which knocks it out pretty easily, but alas, he switches out into his Registeel, and my Flamethrower is not enough to knock it out, and that Earthquake is enough to finish me off, thus resulting in a loss on my parts. Perhaps due to the first turn unfreezing, but you guys can be the judge of that. Anyway, this was a very good match, some very well played things on my enemy's part, and anyway, I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye!